Battle Through the Heavens, Grand World. Chapter 263 The Elites of the Central World. Upon hearing Yuan Tianmu's arrogant words, Li Yin's face darkened, and his eyes were filled with endless fury. It was said that even Mu Yuyang from the realm in Valley of the Yunluo Academy had yet to reach the monarch emperor. Although this Yuan Tianmu had a great reputation, he wasn't as shocking as the former. His strength was only at the sovereign realm, but he was still so arrogant. Xiao Yan looked at Yuan Tianmu in shock when he heard this. Then, he shook his head slowly while Yuan Tianmu was smiling. He said, "I'm sorry. I also want to take this guy's head." Yuan Tianmu was stunned when he heard this. Then, he looked at Xiao Yan meaningfully and said with a slight smile on his face. "I saw it just now. With your strength, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to kill him completely." Blue veins popped out on Li Yin's forehead, but he was also a shrewd man. Although he was infuriated by the two men in front of him, he still looked calm on the surface. After listening to Xiao Yan's words, he smiled gently and said, "Sure, since both of them want my head, I'll take it one by one. Who will go first?" Although he knew that he was much stronger than Yuan Tianmu and Xiao Yan, he wasn't sure if he could win against the joint attack of these two men. Besides, Yuan Tianmu was also a mighty warrior of the Yunluo Academy's realm in Valley. It was torturous to fight such a monstrous genius. After listening to Li Yin's words, Yuan Tianmu chuckled and looked at Xiao Yan slowly. "Since this brother insists on going, you can go first." After saying that, a strange smile appeared on his face as he looked at Xiao Yan. His gaze was calm, but it seemed to contain a thought-provoking feeling. When Li Yin heard this, an undetectable cold light flashed across his eyes. As long as Yuan Tianmu didn't interfere, things would be much easier. As for this black-robed young man in front of him, he really didn't put him in his eyes. "Thank you for letting me win." Xiao Yan looked at Yuan Tianmu indifferently, the corner of his mouth forming a faint smile. Intentionally or unintentionally, he looked into the distance. He suddenly said in a low voice, "The disturbance here seems to be quite big. Someone has come. Brother, you should leave first." Yuan Tianmu's expression changed when he heard this. He turned his head around with a solemn expression. Purple light circulated in his eyes as if his purple eyes were flashing. In an instant, he could clearly see a few powerful auras rising from afar and rushing towards him. They are from the other branches of Kangry group. It's good that they are here. Let's take care of them together. Yuan Tianmu smiled faintly. Among all these the strongest one was only at the peak of Monarch King. As long as the Monarch Emperor didn't appear, he would be fearless. What a brave man, but I want to remind you that this place is the base camp of Kangry group. I heard that Xiao Yi from the Yunluo Academy killed a gang member by himself. It seems like this brother Yuan has the same idea." Xiao Yan smiled lightly and said softly. His tone was casual and it wasn't obvious that he was panicking. Yuan Tianmu's originally calm expression finally became a little gloomy after hearing Xiao Yan's words. What kind of joke was this? Back then, Xiao Yi was stronger than him by a few points. He had used all his strength to destroy a sect member ranked 97th. However, the current Kangry group. The overall strength of the Kangry group was obviously higher than that of the disciples who were killed by Xiao Yi with his own strength. If it was Mu Yuyang or Lin Dao, but for him, it was impossible. "You bastard." Yuan Tianmu regained his senses and looked at Xiao Yan coldly. After that, he smiled and waved his white robe. His body flashed and appeared beside Xiao Yan. "You are forcing me to attack you." Staring at Li Yin who had an ugly expression on his face, Yuan Tianmu looked at Xiao Yan and said in a flat tone. There was no emotion in his voice. Xiao Yan smiled without saying anything. After realizing that Kangry group had a helper, all of his plans had been messed up. If he wanted to leave smoothly, he would have to rely on Yuan Tianmu's help. "Who are you?" Yuan Tianmu wasn't in a hurry to attack. He stared coldly at Li Yin and asked Xiao Yan who was standing beside him. Xiao Yan, a student of Yunluo Academy. At this moment, Xiao Yan didn't want to hide anything anymore. After Yuan Tianmu asked, Xiao Yan spoke. "Yunluo Academy. Xiao Yan, with your strength, you should be famous for your soaring dragon ranking. Why haven't I heard of it before?" Yuan Tianmu couldn't help but be slightly startled when he heard this. There were only a few people in Realm in Valley, although they rarely met. However, he was also sure that this guy wasn't from the realm in Valley. Apart from that, there was only the soaring dragon ranking in the inner courtyard. Senior Yuan is busy with things, so he naturally won't notice me. Xiao Yan smiled slightly and gave an ambiguous answer. Hearing the two of them discussing in front of him without any restraint and totally not putting him in their eyes, Li Yin was so angry that he laughed. He put his palms together and an endless stream of cold qi rose from his palms. It contained a great power that was no weaker than any monarch spell. Alright, since you're from the Yunluo Academy, Senior will help you. Yuan Tianmu also laughed after hearing what Xiao Yan said. He took a step forward. His white robe fluttered in the wind, and his slender fingers spread out. Purple qi was surging in his hand. The moment before the surging cold qi rushed towards him, Yuan Tianmu's eyes suddenly focused, and his palms lightly clenched in the air. In an instant, the purple qi in his palm had already rushed out like an astral blade. Wherever the purple qi passed, the space would buzz. It seemed as if it would collapse at any moment. Heavenly purple astral blade. The purple astral blade roared fiercely like a giant purple dragon. The light cut across the space and faced the spreading cold qi. Under Li Yin's cold expression, the purple light broke through the cold qi and struck Li Yin with unstoppable force, sending him into the lake far away, causing a few hundred zhongtal splash. Xiao Yan's heart trembled when he saw Yuan Tianmu's attack. The power of this attack was comparable to the monarch arts. If he didn't use the monarch flame, he was afraid that he wouldn't be a match for Yuan Tianmu. Thinking of this, Xiao Yan lowered his gaze slightly. He didn't know how the Xiaoao was doing, and whether the injuries in his body had been alleviated. As expected of a mighty warrior from the realm in Valley. Truly powerful. Xiao Yan raised his head and sighed with emotion. Just like what Zhu Kun had said, everyone in the realm in Valley. They were all monstrous geniuses. Li Yin had at least reached the peak of the Emperor realm. Even though he had lost a lot of his strength during the battle, he was still sent flying by Yuan Tianmu with a single strike. This also showed how extraordinary this guy was. Realm in Valley is the most elite of Yunluo Academy after all. Naturally, we can't lose the face of Realm in Valley when dealing with an opponent of this level. Why did Yuan Tianmu smile? Back then, it seemed like Mu Yuyong had sent a monarch emperor expert flying with just a single strike. This had established his supreme reputation, and he didn't know when he would be able to possess that kind of strength. As soon as his voice faded, Yuan Tianmu's figure flashed and appeared on the surface of the lake. The origin monarch qi suddenly exploded with a cold tone. Surnamed Li, don't play dead for me. Come out quickly, or I will raze this place to the ground. Although the attack just now was extremely ferocious, it was impossible to kill Li Yin with this attack. After all, the latter was an expert who had advanced to the Emperor realm for many years. The ice defense on his body was naturally not to be underestimated. Yuan Tianmu furiously shouted a few times, but the surface of the lake in front of him still slowly calmed down. Li Yin was like a stone sinking into the ocean, and there was no news of him. Boom! All of a sudden, the surface of the water behind Xiao Yan suddenly exploded. A drenched human figure rushed out from the water. He held a short sword in his hand and shot towards Xiao Yan's back. Hi guys, please like, comment, share, and subscribe.